Hi, I'm Matt Williams, and I'm sitting here with Andres Pedraza, who did an experiment recently, decided to go 2 days without speaking Spanish, which is his first language. So tell us about the experiment in a little bit more detail.
Well, I chose this experiment for a class where I tried to speak only in English for 2 days, and of course it was it was something very difficult for me because I have mainly friends that only speak Spanish, and they're learning English here at UC. So I just try to speak English for those 2 days, pretty much.
Did you have any exceptions to the rule?
No, I just try to speak in English as long as I can. Maybe my only exception could have been if I maybe talk with my parents back home, but I just try to don't talk to them.
What about like writing?
Writing, well, didn't write anything in Spanish during
Okay.
those 2 days. Like I tried to choose 2 days that I knew that I wouldn't have to talk or write in Spanish. So.
Was there any specific reason you chose to do this? Any motivation behind it?
Kind of. I play for the soccer team, and we have like a lot of foreigners, and they speak like Spanish and Portuguese mainly. So I just try to see the point of view of other people that are around and that can really understand us when we are like speaking in Spanish. So that was my main idea to choose to speak 2 days in English.
What was the most difficult aspect of the experiment?
The most difficult aspect was like being around my friends because of course they didn't want me to be successful with the experiment. So it was a little bit difficult to talk to them in English all the time because they will hear me in English, but then they will answer me in Spanish. So.
Yeah. Is that hard to? I assume speaking Spanish is a reflex for you. So is it hard to just tell yourself to answer in English?
Sometimes, but I was like mainly focused on just like speaking in English, and then whenever they answer me in Spanish, I'll just take a little bit of time and then answer them in English again.
Did you ever fail or struggle? Well, obviously you struggled, but did you ever fail?
No, I didn't. Like I really tried, but there were some times that I knew that I wasn't like focused enough, so I just didn't hang out with anybody. I was just in my room by myself.
Did you learn anything while doing all this?
Yeah, I learned like how people can really see us when we are like speaking in another language. Maybe how they feel, because they can feel like kind of like segregated because we're speaking in another language. I'm sorry. So that's probably like what I learned with that I should try to speak in English all the time so all the people can understand what we're like talking about.
Okay. Tell me more about that. You said that a lot of people on the soccer team speak Spanish and Portuguese, which
Yeah.
are really similar, right?
Yes, they're very similar.
Is there anything that happened within that? I mean, what about like the coaches? Do they speak in Spanish?
No, they don't speak Spanish or Portuguese, so for them it's also very difficult because when you're like playing soccer, you're not thinking about like, oh, I have to speak in English. You just wanna get the ball and play, and if you make a mistake, you probably are gonna say something in Spanish or Portuguese. So for them it's like they usually try to do like a punishment to us because they want us to speak in other language besides English. So that was pretty much it, what they usually do during practice.
Okay. So what's your final opinion of the experiment?
My final opinion would be like it's really hard to speak only in English for 2 days when Spanish is your first language. But I think it's a very good experiment because you learn that that you can be more friendly with other people, that you cannot segregate yourself or others using other language besides English. So.
How long have you been speaking English?
Well, I started when I was like a little kid, like on a bilingual school, but I didn't submerge like into the culture until I moved here like to United States like 4 years ago, pretty much.
Was that hard for you to adapt at all?
At the beginning, because you're not used to, and still I struggle sometimes, but now it's a little bit easier.
Well, would you do it again?
Probably not.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to us.